If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune in to our YouTube channel on YouTube at Wild and Weird WV.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast.
Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again for your regular scheduled program. This is us back in order. All three of us here in the house tonight. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
I'm good.
Good. I don't have too much to complain about this week, and if I did, I'd have to pay somebody to listen. So we'll spare you guys that much. But remember, go ahead and mash that like button, and don't forget to share this show with your friends. Tell everybody you know about it. We're growing at a fantastic rate. The community is fantastic that has been built up around this show. And don't forget to join us every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern for our live Wild and Weird Radio. It's an absolute ball. Everybody has a blast.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. We've had a couple really good episodes over there you might have heard about of late. They've been really good. We had some great people. They've had a good time, and I don't know. I just think those just keep getting better and better every week. That's what I think.
Everybody seemed to really enjoy the time travel episode.
Yeah, the time travel episode was good. We had one person who couldn't stand the time travel episode and had to I had to unsubscribe from us.
Oh, bummer.
I know. They didn't believe Mike's story and basically called him a liar. And to which I said, well, we're not here to make you believe anything, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we're not. So let's go ahead and face that right now real quick for those who are just first-time listeners. Everything you hear tonight is just going to be us throwing a bunch of data on the table. We didn't write the data.
Now, we will speculate, but we'll preface when we start speculating.
You'll know when we start speculating. But no, what we're going to throw out there is just going to be the data, and you're free to believe that or not. It doesn't matter. We don't have an agenda. Our agenda is called the truth. And that's both sides of the truth, because somewhere in the middle of that, is where you're going to find the actual proof of what you're looking for. Because a lot of this stuff, as I've said multiple times, is just a massive lie sandwich. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And it has been for generations at this point.
Yeah.
It's not
new.
And it goes for the UFO community, the paranormal community, the cryptozoological community. There's so many sources of disinformation out there. A couple weeks back, you got to hear our cryptozoology versus everything episode.
That was a good episode. That was a really good episode.
That was a fantastic episode.
You know what? I'm going to link to that right now. You just go up and click that little thing up over there in the corner, and you'll be able to you'll go watch that. It'll be good. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, it was a very well received episode this time. But the first time we did that episode 3 years ago, you would have thought we just flipped tables and everybody was crying.
I don't remember much from that episode.
Oh, it's people coming up to us at the shows saying, well, I don't know, that rake thing, that rake, I'm into that rake. I'm into the...
Well, that's cool. You can be into that. That's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. But that's all it is. It's fun.
It's entertainment. Creepypasta is just entertainment.
Yeah, it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with having fun. There really isn't. It's when you get into the people who want to portray these things as 100% accurate.
Yeah.
That's when it gets a little tricky.
It's when things get a little squirrely, and then they start to take on a life of their own, and then other people are like, yeah, I've seen that too, and you might have seen something. We're not saying that you didn't have an experience. But did you experience what you think you did?
It's like those people who tell us that there's a third host that we have. It's Brandon or something. And every now and again, I swear, I think I see it. I really do. I mean, see, I thought I heard it right there for a second.
Like today he's here.
Yeah, I know. He's actually here, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon's here. Brandon, say something. The radio people can't see you.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, listen to that sultry voice.
Wow.
That's where we go.
That's where he goes.
Okay. We don't have much in the news this week, so I say we spare everybody the news segment. What do you think?
That's fine. We can spare the news segment. Let's.
But there was one announcement worth mentioning.
Well, I think that deserves a news roll. That deserves.
Okay,
a news
let's
roll.
give it the news roll.
The abridged version.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this year at CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky, the very first guest on the docket is Mr. Giorgio Tsoukalos. Trust me, you're going to want to come hang out.
Giorgio.
We've met the guy. He's one of the coolest people on the planet. Definitely go meet him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
We're going to be there, and we're going to have Ancient Aliens type merch. Stuff that goes along with Ancient Alien theory and whatnot.
You've seen our Ancient Alien stuff for the past few years, but you have not seen the degree of Ancient Alien merchandise that will be on this table.
Because the entire year's production scale has been changed at this point. This is
going to be epic. Epic.
I've scrapped 3 projects that I was going to do and changed them, and now it's UFOs.
It's going to be epic.
Oh man. And then there's one more news.
Look, it's a little demon.
Oh, look at him. He's
naturally camouflaged.
Check it, dude. That's what they do. Look.
Yeah, everybody who's listening, you have to go to YouTube for at least a few seconds to see this.
Set it up here on my shoulder. There he is.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool, right?
Well, you know what might be able to help you see that, guys? If you go and sign up right now for Elon Musk's Neuralink, you can have this chip installed in your brain and immediately start reciting, assimilate. We are one.
Even my little alien friend says that's a bad idea. So I wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bad idea.
But other than that, isn't it kind of eerily quiet in the news right now?
A little bit.
Considering the last, 3 months of our news segment lasting almost 25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And it was pretty much all, about this little guy.
I mean, just like Tony was saying, it was pancakes and UFOs all the way down. That is just, you're having too much fun with this.
I like this little thing. He's cool. I didn't know.
That is indeed, that is really cool that it's green screening right now.
I didn't know that he would, turn out to represent all the little, what do they call those things?
Owls.
Glimmer. No, hell, yeah,
Glimmer Man.
Is it like the Glimmer Man effect, kind of? Like
yeah, it is. It really is.
Here's a good example, guys, of what they're talking about when they say that. So he just kind of walks through. Okay, that's enough playing with that thing. I had too much fun with that. It was fun.
Oh man! All right, I think it wraps up our news segment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was good.
News. Abridged.
Yep. That's right.
All right, guys. Tonight's episode is a really interesting one. It's one that we've actually spoken about briefly in the past. I think it was in season 1. We were going over UFO sightings in the modern era. We touched this topic, and especially now, it is more relevant today, I think, than it has been in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I don't think you can do UFOs in North America and not touch the subject. It's one of
And
those.
the title, of course, for tonight is the Cash Landrum Incident. Many of you might not be familiar with this specific incident that occurred, but a brief rundown is that in 1980, there were witnesses that claimed there was a UFO that was responsible for causing health and property damage. This UFO was seen passing over a roadway, and it was emitting a type of flame and sparking. And Betty Cash and Vicki Landrum and Vicki's grandson Colby were sitting in the car. They were in an Oldsmobile Cutlass, which, if you guys remember those vehicles,
It's a
they're
big car.
big car. It's a land barge.
It's a big car.
Yeah.
And
cars.
It was just after 9 p.m. and it was 2-lane road, very densely wooded on either side. And they saw a light come from above the trees. They thought at first that it was an aircraft, but then quickly figured out that it was not. This was a diamond-shaped UFO, for lack of a better term. But what gets very interesting are the following details: the accompaniment, the side effects, and everything else that precedes the rest of the story, which we're going to cover tonight in this episode. So brace yourself, because this one's a doozy.
Yeah, it's a weird story. It's a really interesting story. I don't know when I first heard about it, because I've heard about these things for a long time, but I do remember when it was on the UFO Cover-Ups Live, that incident. And it was on Sightings a few times. And we actually found, I think Brandon found me a clip of some of those old clips, and we're going to put those down in the description. You can go watch those. It's really cool because, some of that footage, you're not going to get anywhere else. And it's honest footage back then with some of the witnesses, and, which 2 of those are no longer with us. And what's crazy about the whole story is that apparently this wasn't just a diamond shape. It was a diamond-like shape, but the top of it was, and bottom of it was squared off. And this is odd in its own way. This is just a weird shape. If you think about creating a UFO, we've had teardrop shapes, we have bell shapes, we got saucers, we got spheres, we got a lot oblongs,
pyramids, triangles.
Sure. And with, the angles, right?
Yep.
Angles. I could see a diamond. I mean, boom. Okay, well, a diamond makes perfect sense. But no, it's not just a diamond. It's a diamond-like shape because the top is flat and the bottom area is flat. So, and it's this dull metallic look, whatever it is. And then you've got something else that most of your standard UFOs, UAPs, whatever you do not exhibit. You've got an exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
You've got an exhaust that's so hot, according to the witnesses, that that area was so hot that they thought it was the end of the world. They thought that this was the second coming of Christ. I kid you not.
Yeah.
That's how hot it was. And I remember her saying something in one of the interviews. She was talking about hell or something. She's like, if hell's hotter than this, then that makes me know that I don't want to go, or something like that. It was just hilarious how she said it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because apparently it was so hot, guys, for real, all joking aside, that inside the vehicle, one of the witnesses, I believe that would have been, was it Vicky? Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, Vicky.
Put her hand on the dashboard, on this leather dashboard, and it imprinted into the leather, and it was still there. So that's pretty warm.
Yeah.
That causes, you got to have some pretty warm, heat to make that hard dash kind of malleable like that again, And Cash was outside the vehicle. She stayed outside the vehicle. When this thing comes over, she gets out. Both of them got out, actually. Vicky and Betty got out, and they're standing out there at the vehicle. But Vicky goes back because they realize, I guess, the kid's still in there screaming, and So Vicky goes back with him, and Betty's out there trying to get a good look at this thing. And it was so bright, she said, that you really couldn't tell what it was at first. It was just so bright. blinding. Said that it looked like the whole forest had erupted, into flames, literally. And she said that the heat, when she went back to get back into the car, because it was coming up and going down, and it would go up on this, it would blast out this big exhaust, going up, and then when the exhaust stopped, it would start coming back down. Now, that reminds me of like a lunar lander kind of a situation, or something,
or even a hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly like that. It's going up, then it comes back down. Well, it's doing this, and the area just gets flooded with this heat, unbearable heat, according to her. Said at one account I saw, said that her ring was actually burned into her finger. I don't know about that, but I do know that she said she had to take her jacket. She had to put her hand in her jacket pocket to open the car because the handle was so hot she couldn't touch it with her bare hand. That's pretty warm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's pretty warm.
It's incredibly hot. Now,
yeah,
mind you, the Oldsmobile Cutlass was a steel body, steel box frame vehicle. And that if you were driving past, because I used to have an Oldsmobile 88 Delta, and that was very similar vehicle. And I would drive by cars that would be on the side of the road on fire, and I could feel that heat in the door panel because it was all metal. Now, imagine being beside
a blowtorch in the sky.
A blowtorch in the sky, and what kind of reaction that would do. Like it's very probable that this is what would happen, because I'm touching a door panel and I have my arm setting on a door panel and I can feel that heat.
Well, according to her, it felt like no heat she'd ever felt before, like at all. And so they're back in the vehicle now because they're freaking out. This thing's spewing and sputtering and whatnot, and it's coming down over the treetops. And then all of a sudden, as they're sitting there in the vehicle, they're thinking about, should we go? No, if you go underneath it, we're gonna burn up. So just stay put. But she also says something very interesting. She says that she left the vehicle running when she got out. If you remember this part, she left the vehicle running when they got out. But as this thing comes over, the vehicle stopped. The vehicle died because when she got back in, she had to restart the vehicle.
Yeah, and she said she saw like weird lightning bolts and stuff coming out of the craft.
Like a discharge, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on which version of that story, but you're right. There's something that's going on here. And then it gets really weird because they hear the helicopters.
Yeah. And not just any helicopter. This is a CH-47 Chinook helicopter.
Accompanied by 23 other helicopters, most of which were CH, I believe is what they said, right?
Yeah, they were mostly Chinooks.
Yeah. And she said it was the sound of like a hurricane or a tornado or something like that. And it would be accurate. I mean, a pretty accurate description.
With that as many helicopters as she was saying was in the air.
And they'd never seen that type before either. So that's...
No, the volume.
No. I can't even comprehend that. The last time I saw an image of anything like that, I think was the Gulf War.
Yeah.
That was when they were landing and, but wow. So these things come in from different angles and converge on this thing. That was their story. And then they all just fly away together over the tree lines. Brandon, were there other witnesses to this?
Yeah, there was, I think, was it Vicky's grandson, Colby, that was in there with him?
Mm-hmm.
He was like 5 years old at the time.
7. He was 7 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And allegedly, in some of the incidents I'd seen, that there are people who said that they saw these helicopters.
Yes.
They did not see the UFO.
Back in, I think it was in Landrum's report.
Mm-hmm.
She had said that Colby was so freaked out by the helicopter because a Chinook does not sound like a Huey flying over. Oh, no, it's not like the boom, 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 boom.
It's like 4 Hueys flying over.
A Chinook just sounds like rolling thunder coming in, and here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now you put 20 of those bad boys in the sky, it's going to be terrifying.
You put 10 of them in the sky.
Yeah, even just 10 of them. Yeah. It's going to be you think, okay, this is it. This is where it all ends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she said
Colby
it
was
sounded like
freaked
a
out.
tornado.
Oh, easy. And the wind that we produce, yeah,
Can't even
off the
imagine.
rails. So Colby was freaking out. He was scared. And she wanted to take Colby to the spot where the helicopters had landed and hoped to, maybe if
yeah.
he's seen him on the ground, he wouldn't freak out nearly as bad. He'd kind of relax a little bit.
That's
And when
right. They found one, right?
when
Didn't
they
they
got
see
to the
one
landing
land?
zone, there were several other people already there waiting to see it.
Mm.
And it was, they both claimed to see the pilot. And then in the area before the purpose for checking on a UFO trouble near Huffman. That is what the quote says there. That they had.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, so what they did is they went somewhere. They saw the helicopter land, like you said,
Yes.
and people were going up to see the helicopter. So, and this was not in relation to the actual sighting.
No.
Right. So she's
But
just
these
wanting
were
to,
just
to
other
help.
people who witnessed the helicopter.
Yeah, and she's just wanting to help the kid because he's still freaking out every time he hears a helicopter now, right?
Yeah.
All right. So they go up to the pilot and she proceeds to have this conversation with him. And he says something about he had responded to a UFO call or over, it was a Huffman or something like that.
Yes,
or
it was near Huffman.
Yeah. And she starts telling him about what happened to them. And then they escort him off the helicopter and pretty much shoo him away.
Yeah, because she had said she was glad to see him because she was one of the people that got burned. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, get her.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. Go on.
Yeah. Which is weird because according to the records, what he was talking about, that had happened like years before.
Yeah, it's 77, according to his report.
Yeah. According to his report. But yeah, it's very interesting though that reaction took place, don't you think? I thought it was interesting that such a reaction would take place because I would have, anyone else would have been like, yeah, okay, cool lady. You know, that would have been, that'd been the best way to do that. But when you did something like, you get out of here, that's probably not the route you want to take with that.
Exactly, because especially with other people around that can confirm that that's what happened.
It's not how you do that.
But it's such a strange case.
It is a strange case.
It is as much a part of American history as it is UFO history at this point because the entanglements that were involved.
Well, I mean, dude, according to this was a 20-minute sighting.
Yeah.
This went on for almost 20 minutes.
Yep. And we'll also post a link to the transcript from the Cash Landrum and Bergstrom Air Force Base Captain Davis. And it was a agreed upon recording. She wanted to make sure. And the whole transcript is there. He goes through, it's a few pages long.
It's good. It's a really good transcript.
But it's a really good transcript.
And went in and put emphases and all that.
That is where we're getting a lot of our data from.
It's really good stuff. And you got to be careful with the Wikipedia page because that's that falls into that whole line of these things that have been edited and whatnot. Because
exactly,
you go back and listen to the actual interviews, especially the ones that Brandon dug up, the actual interviews where they're speaking themselves, that has all been omitted from any of the Wikipedia stuff.
Yes,
and
it's been removed.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Go watch it and you'll understand what we're talking about there. But
and when you go to the Wikipedia page and you open up the file for Cash Landrum Incident, there are multiple yellow needs additional citation.
Yep, there is
markers.
Yep,
where things have been edited recently.
Yep, there is. It's a very real case, and what makes it more important is the fact that these victims tried to they did. They sued the United States government.
Yes.
Now that's the first. This has not happened up until this point. So that was important because what happened was the day after they had this incident. Well, actually, it was the same night. I think Vicky said that she took Colby and was giving him a bath, and he started screaming.
The water
hit his skin. Yeah.
Yep.
and it was red. Everything was red. You know, his skin turned red. And the next day, the same thing started happening to them. They started having severe headaches, nausea, diarrhea.
They began
Um,
having symptoms of
symptoms,
radiation poisoning.
which they didn't know that at the time. So I think it was January 3rd. I think it's what I have here in the notes that Cash was so bad that she had to go. So she ended up, I don't know if Vicky took her, but she ended up in the hospital, and they treated her for burns. And she had to go back after that. And they started treating her for what she said. One of them said it looked like radiation sickness, is what it
Yes.
pretty much sounded like. And that's interesting because she lost patches of hair. She lost skin. There's like so much signs of radiation stuff here. Let me find one of the things for you. 1991, Cash's personal doctor, Dr. Brian McClellan, told Houston police that her condition was a, quote, textbook case of radiation poisoning comparable to being at, quote, 3 to 5 miles from the epicenter of Hiroshima, end quote. Now, that's pretty significant.
It is.
And if you look at some of the photos, it's like, what? I mean, they'll blow your mind. They were literally, they were exposed to something out there. So let me make this real clear to you guys. We're not saying that's an alien spacecraft. So let's put that right here on the line before you start thinking, that's where we're going with this. We're not going with that. We're going with the fact that it was an unknown aircraft. And that's what it was. It was an unknown aircraft. We don't know whose it was. We just know that something was flying over that area, according to this report, and that there were biological effects after this. Now, if you go watch some of these old videos, you'll see some of the most famous skeptics of the time give their 2 cents in it. And they basically say, oh, no, this is all a lie. This was all made up. They're trying to get their bills paid for because they have, medical expenses. Well, the funny thing is, Cash didn't have any medical issues until after this, really, as far as, any kind of thing like this. I think she had heart surgery or something before this, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about she developed cancer after this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
you don't go from just nothing to that.
I'm going to read, because this is just
Go ahead.
as this is the transcript, and it's in this part where you're talking about.
Go ahead.
And this is Betty Cash talking, and she says, well, the only thing I know is that I was sick within 30 minutes after the time it happened and burning up. I was just like I had blistered all over, like I had been laying on a beach, and it happened within 30 minutes after the incident. I was feeling fine before, and then all this took place. The next morning, I was so sick I couldn't, and even craving water, I was dying of thirst. I thought that I felt like I was so dehydrated. I couldn't get out of bed to get myself a glass of water. Then the captain asked, did you have any special sensation in your mouth? She says, nothing but extreme dryness. Then he continues, the captain asks, have you ever tried? Okay. And then Betty, breaking in, says, my lips were swollen. My ears were swollen about 3 times. My face, my entire body. My family didn't recognize me. When they came to the hospital, they told them what room I was in, and they said they'd not known for sure that it was me. They wouldn't have known. Had they not known that was her in the room, she was so burnt, blistered, and swollen, they wouldn't have known it was her.
Oh, some of the photos are insane. I'm not kidding you.
So prior to this occasion on the 29th of December, 1980, had you ever been hospitalized or treated for any alien ailments or problems? Betty replies, sure, I had heart surgery. Okay, when and where was that? Birmingham, Alabama in 1976. Okay, any other treatments? Nothing other than a hysterectomy when I was 29.
That's what, yeah, okay.
Captain says, when you were 29, now you've been, have you ever been treated for any medical conditions that would have required you to be exposed to any radioactive materials? No, Betty says. Is there anything else that you can pass on to us? Well, no, nothing other than that they ran every test possible on me and they said that they could find no problems with my body anywhere to cause me to be in this condition. He asks, who is they? She replies, the doctors at Parkway Hospital. And then she goes on. He asks about does she have a primary care physician now? Because she lives in Alabama at this point. And she says yes and gives the doctor's name. So the captain says, oh, I see. Okay, now that you understand, you tell me that currently you still have dysentery and some hair loss. Is that hearing loss or hair loss? Is that correct? She says, I still have headaches. I still have upset stomach. I still can't take a hot bath. And if I do, I burn like a victim all over again.
That is just insane.
So this is 8 months after the event. She still can't take a hot bath because her skin burns again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then he says, okay, just a minute. And she said, I can't stand the heat. And he says, okay, in other words, you're so heat sensitive. Tell me about it. And she says, yes, basically says yes, a long way around it. And then he says, what about exposure to sunlight? She says that I can't take sunlight. I mean, it's just to the point where I have to stay in the house unless it gets out after it gets cool in the afternoon and the sun goes down, or either I'm in bed sick the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we post this whole thing in the show notes, you guys need to go click it, read it, because I'm not stuttering and stammering. These are literally the way that she's speaking. This was a transcribed off of a recording, and I'm reading it word for word. These things, she's so sensitive to sunlight. It's to the point where I have to stay in the house unless it gets out after it gets cold.
Yeah.
She can't be out. So solar radiation burns her up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ron.
Yeah.
Brandon.
There you go.
Guys, like this.
There you go. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. This was all released recently.
Yep. This is from the DRD, the DIRD. It's unclassified. You can go check it out. I believe the link's up here for you guys. This was released a couple years ago, and this is from March 11th, 2010. This is, you hear refer to this a lot. This is the anomalous acute and subacute field effects on human biological tissues. This is the one that was prepared, I believe, by Kit Green.
Yes.
And it talks a lot about that. I want to go to this part right here. And I'm going to read this again. I advise you to go and actually click on the link yourself and take a look at it for yourself. I'm going to see if I can go in here a little bit bigger for you guys.
Because when you view it on your screen, it's going to be a lot more crisp, but we're going to try to make it as good for you as we can.
Let's see what I can do here for you.
But these biological effects, they're real. They've been noted. Real. You've got Dr. Gary Nolan going over these. We have Kit Green, who has done research on these. There's so many other PhDs who are aware, including Travis Taylor.
Can you guys see those better?
Yeah.
You see it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I wanted to let you see right here. Several years ago, 3 previous fit and active individuals experienced an anomalous, irregular, incongruous, and inconsistent with their domain aerospace related event. Basically, what that is fancy words for they went too close to a UAP.
Yeah.
Within 72 hours, they suffered medical signs and symptoms, acute and subacute effects. These included almost immediate arrhythmia, heat and redness over the exposed to presumed source of an electromagnetic radiation skin. So read that. Over the exposed skin. They believe that it was caused by the source of electromagnetic radiation. Varying degrees of the following as a function of their body surface, exposure times, fever, pain, headaches, numbness, paralysis, malaise, diarrhea, loss of hair, alopecia, which is also possible. It is also a precursor to hair loss. It can cause hair loss. So that has been reported with this kind of exposure. Skin eruptions, boils, cardiac palpitations, beginnings of what were to become chronic headaches, and symptoms of insomnia and other sleep and dream disturbances, moderate to occasional severe anxiety and insomnia. 2 of these persons also experienced photophobia, extreme sensitivity to light. You just mentioned that a little bit ago.
Yep.
Dry and scratchy stinging eyes. That's also mentioned. Extreme inflamed bloodshot scleria. That's the whites of the eyes, with soft tissue swelling of the eyelids. 1 of 3 experienced moderate blood dyscrasia, signs of radiation illnesses, and over several years developed signs of malignant transformations. Now, you would think we were talking about the same people that we were just talking about, but we're not. These persons were antenna engineers, and they were subjected to an anomalous accident. That's all that we have on those. I'm sure that there's like 40 some other accidents that are quoted in this structure, in this study, by the way. But what it comes down to basically is that we're dealing with something that is producing a pretty powerful burst of energy. That energy is ionizing and non-ionizing. Now, it's non-ionizing, but if you push non-ionizing to a certain power level, it basically becomes ionizing to a degree and mimics X-ray and gamma radiation. That's kind of what is going on here. Let me give you another one here. So what we've got going on, guys, is a basic, what's the best word for it? Exposure event. That's the best word for it. It's an exposure event.
And you got to think that report was done in 2010. It was released for public consumption and declassified far later. I think it was what, declassified in 2019, right?
I think, was this 2019?
Was it part of that big info dump?
I think it was 2019. It might have been 2019. I'm not sure. It's over on our main page.
We've got all that stuff over there. So you can also go find that link on the website and a few other places as well. But the this took place in the 80s.
Right?
And they're describing the exact same symptoms, the exact same elements.
It's that 6th observable, as they like to call it. Remember the 5 observables that Elizondo and all those guys were talking about, put off and all those guys? Well, it's a 6th observable, and that's the one that people don't like to talk about. And that's the damage to skin, damage to the biologics. And that's us, in other words. We got too close to it. So, that's the kind of stuff that happens. But what's happening here, I got it now. I'll go right ahead and I'm going to share this one now. Let you guys take a look at this. So again, if you're listening to this, pop on over and just have a view, have a look at these, and then make up your own mind. You can do that later because, again, it's just the evidence and it's straight from the sources. You can go take a look at that and judge it yourself. Again, no one's telling you what to believe, only showing you what's there. This should be it right here. This is it. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Got that? Okay. So this is from the Lighthouse. This is a really good article that we quote sometimes too, that'll often be out there in the support of some of this close contact stuff. According to M.J. Baines, Christopher Green, research into such cases began in 2003. So they started actually going into this stuff in 2003, right? So that means that it's very possible that some of the data that eventually got, released, this case is in there.
Oh, very, very possible.
We don't know.
And it's also theorized that part of this case was also the Rendlesham incident.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much all but been proven at this point.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much all but been proven at this point, Joe. But how does it work? Well, Christopher Green's DIRD, which I just showed you, refers to the potentially dangerous effects of a phenomena. You've heard us talk about this before, called blue shifting. And that's being exposed to blue shifting at relatively close range. If you can feel it, that's pretty close.
Yes.
That it can result in symptoms associated with broadband radiation poisoning. The concept of blue shifting is detailed in a highly technical DRD written by Dr. Hal Puthoff. It is entitled Advanced Space Propulsion Based on Vacuum Spacetime Metrics Engineering. Dr. Puthoff wrote in that ultraviolet and soft X-ray generation due to blue shifting of the visible portion of the spectrum to higher frequencies can produce harmful effects. So what that basically means is, let me find this here for you. The downside, if you push this ultraviolet, which is harmless light, ultraviolet, if you push UV to a dangerous level, to an insane, absurd amount of level, and the only way you would really be doing that would be as you were, I don't know, trying to manipulate it in some other way. There's a possibility that it goes into what's called soft X-ray region, and there can be a chance of radiation poisoning. So if you run across one of these things, he says, sitting on the ground, it's powered up, I recommend you don't rush up to it. And now I think we know why.
Right.
Because it's not going to be good for you. Just don't do it.
You're going to have some issues. Now, what that does seem to suggest is that these craft, some of them, are apparently running off nuclear power. Is that, I mean, that is what it sounds like, right, guys?
Stanton Friedman actually said that it was powered off of a nuclear source. That it was a fission reaction.
Right.
That he thought that this thing was running off of. And another one said that back in the day, this isn't now, but this was back in the day, said that it could have been a microwave propulsion system that they were testing. Because back in the day, there was talk of this pulsed microwave engine. I believe it was leaving something called, what was it called? Donut on a rope, contrails or something. They tracked them somewhere over the west. This is how they came up with the whole Aurora thing, Project Aurora. The pulsed microwave supposedly somehow creates that blue shifting. So apparently, if you fire that microwave beam up enough and it hits whatever it's hitting, I don't know what the media is. I couldn't tell you. I'm not an astrophysicist, but if it hits this certain media, it's at a certain wavelength, the power causes it to basically go from a harmless non-ionizing form to an ionizing form. And that's where you get the issues. That's where the danger comes in. So it'll start emulating X-ray and gamma rays.
So we've got a melted dashboard that left fingerprints in it.
Mm-hmm.
We have lesions, boils. We've got hot car doors.
Mm-hmm.
We've got swollen eyes, swollen ears, photophobia. We've got hydrophobia because they get into the water and they can't stand it. They have this reaction to hot water. Cold water is fine, but hot water, the heat just sets off the pain. These are all very remarkable things that would happen after a possible UFO event. These are wild.
Yeah. Well, the government spent, over $22 million as far as we know, right? Studying this. So
yeah,
of course. I mean, that's the thing, because that's a heck of a weapon.
Oh, right. Now
that's a heck of a weapon, because you're talking about, look, man, if you figure out how to weaponize this, right? You've got a phaser. You've got the Star Trek phaser. You've got the death ray. You've got
you don't have to worry about a phaser at that point. You've got point click death.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, though. You've got a means to take someone out with just a beam. That's what I'm getting at. Theoretically, you have that, because you're talking about basically generate an electromagnetic wave, right? So you're generating an electromagnetic wave. You're pushing it with such power that its subatomic particles are basically just they're ionizing atoms. So that's a ray gun. That's what you've done, whether you intended to do it or not. That's the kind of power that hit these people.
And as remarkable as this story sounds, it gets stranger.
Oh,
Okay.
it gets stranger.
And eventually, what winds up happening is Landrum winds up reaching out to a couple senators. It was Lloyd Benston and John Tower, and they suggested that they file a complaint with Bergstrom Air Force Base, which is the manuscript that I was reading off of earlier. But that they should seek a lawyer and look for financial compensation for their injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They sued the federal government for $20 million.
Yeah.
Okay. It was tied up in the court for years and years and was eventually dismissed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This case was dismissed under the argument that the federal government said it wasn't our UFO.
What do you think about that? Talk about technicality.
A government, again, that had for decades a literal generation.
Not even
said
admitted that a UFO exists.
Right. Swamp gas. It wasn't our UFO.
All of a sudden now it's
That's
okay.
why you can't sue us.
It's UFO.
It might have
It's
been
not ours.
Russia's.
Right.
All right. Yeah, that's just ludicrous. I mean, so basically, there was a massive issue that took place here.
Yeah.
Had that taken place anywhere else, there probably would have been something done about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it happened on a country road out in the middle of nowhere, 3 old ladies and a kid, collateral damage.
Yeah. Right off. Get rid of it.
It's collateral damage. That's all that is. Why so many helicopters? Why so many helicopters? Well, that's very simple, because if this was something, and I do believe it was something, they were testing something.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was an intercept. I don't think that that's what it was. I know there's a lot of researchers who say that, yeah, there was something came in and then, they went in to get it. That all came from that BS script that was written and read on UFO Cover Up Live.
Yeah.
By the Anonymous Falcon. Look into that. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to go into that. We can do a whole show and we're not going to. That is disinformation at its best, is what that was. That was the lie sandwich. That was the absolute lie sandwich. The truth was there, but it was hidden between it was a UFO and they were flying it and da da da. Who cares? Okay, here's the point. Someone did something really bad out there, and they, instead of just saying, "Yep, our bad. Here's $20 million. Sorry, we shouldn't have did something like that."
We shouldn't have roasted you with our
over an area,
Yeah.
that there could have been civilians. We shouldn't have did that, but we did. Here you go. We apologize. No, they didn't do that. Instead, there's like, it wasn't our UFO.
It wasn't our UFO.
Not our problem. I don't know what to tell you. But here's the thing.
Well, now here's something else I've got a question about.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Because there are from a skeptical angle, there are some holes in this.
Yeah, let's play Phil Class. Let's bring out his ghost. Let's
so you said first that there were so many helicopters, but how were there that many Chinooks? How were there that many?
Again,
and then
Class even said that, and I agree.
Then the next thing for me is these ladies were down in a car and got microwaved in their car.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to those dudes in the helicopters?
She even said that. She
She
even
did.
said that during one of the interviews. She was talking about that. She said, I really felt for those people, those guys in the helicopter, because they were closer to it than we were.
Yeah.
They had to be feeling something.
So where
Collateral damage.
right. Now does this imply that it was a retrieved UFO that was trying to be reverse engineered to fly again, or were we actually looking at a UFO and said, I can kind of build this. Let's see if we can make it work. And then they built
Or,
it.
yeah.
And then, because there are nuclear fission engine patents out there.
Well, my thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be that we were trying to build a UFO.
Right.
We could have just been trying to build the next generation lift craft.
Yeah.
And we took some parts from, something someone gave us at Lockheed or.
So, do you think maybe they were trying to wrangle the UFO?
No. No, I don't. I think that they were making sure. I think that they had taken that thing out for a test. Something went horribly wrong. They called in, we might crash. This thing is there's likely that this thing is going to crash.
And we're going to need at least a few of you guys that we can
Yeah.
tether to pull us away if something happens.
Oh,
We're
that's
gonna-
why it was bobbing up and down in the air because
No,
it
no,
was
no.
smoke.
They
And there
weren't.
was smoke.
They weren't attached to it yet.
No, not
But
yet.
you can better believe that if that thing went down, if it had nuclear material on it, they were going to have to shut an entire area out. They probably had so much response teams on those helicopters. This is the only reason you would have that many helicopters. You would have to have a response team for a possible crash, recovery. You would have to have
Contamination.
Contamination, exactly, decontamination.
You know how
probably
they would
your
cover
own,
it up?
everything.
Chemical truck spill.
But yeah, that's what you would have to do. You'd have to go in. You'd have to have that. So they had that contingency in the air, and I think that's what they were doing.
That's where the mass force would have had to been employed there.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that's the
what
only
they were
way
doing.
that could have come into play.
I think that's what they were doing. If that's what it was, that's what they were doing. And they escorted it away, and it did not crash, and they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to go to Plan B. That's what it came down to. But if you look at some of the history, you were talked about it. We had those engines, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're called NTRs. They're called nuclear they're nuclear thermal rockets. NTRs is what they're called. And that was going to be our engine that got us into space before they put everything into the space shuttle program. They were literally working on this NTR technology, and it went from 1955. They had a built model in 1955, guys. They tested this thing in 1955. It ran all the way up to 1973 before they just, closed the program. You know what?
And
Stanton
according
says
to
about
Stanton
that.
Friedman, a lot of those programs worked, and they're like, "Oh, well, it works. All right, program's
Exactly.
closed.
Exactly.
New name."
You guys
Everybody's
remember?
fired.
You guys remember a little craft called the Delta Flyer? Y'all remember that?
Oh yeah.
Now, the Delta Flyer was the first time that we actually got to see what I still to this day consider a demonstration of unconventional technology. And that was when this thing literally just lifts off, goes over here and sits back down. I mean, that was an amazing, amazing thing to see. That was the first time that had ever happened. And you can bet that they've been doing that for years. The first thing I thought of when I saw that was the Cash Landrum Incident. That was the very first thing I thought of when I saw that thing lift off.
Because you have that same kind of exhaust coming down.
Mm-hmm. And, we see that now with the, the freaking, what is it called? Elon's baby, where they come back down
the
and land
SpaceX
themselves. They're amazing. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
But they, again, these are intelligent, systems.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this thing was intelligent too. Maybe that was one of the first, remote things they were testing.
One of the first versions of
drone
what would become the Falcon.
If that was an unmanned vehicle, that makes more sense to have all those people, following it as well.
And you're flying it remotely.
Yeah, flying remotely. But these incidents, dude, these close to the technology incidents, they happened. I mean, and one of the most popular ones, was what's his name from Skinwalker Ranch, Thomas Winterton.
Yes.
Winterton. The exposure to basically radiation. You know that Gary Nolan said that he was exposed to direct beam,
Right.
is what he said. That he was targeted. That's exactly what he said. And if you look at the um, the medical pictures and whatnot of him, the reports that have been released, dude, it's crazy. I mean, that big knot on the back of his head, it's like that's kind of some of the stuff she was talking about. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of her hair fell out and whatnot as well. But yeah, I mean, you got visible skin irritations, you got hair loss. I mean, it's the same thing. I don't know. It's radiation. It's some kind of radiation. That's what I'm coming at this with. So I don't know what it was any more than that. Do I think that the government owes them some money? Yeah, they should have paid out. They should have paid out. I think that was really a wrong thing to do, is what I think.
Now, when we're looking at the size of this thing,
Mhm.
it's like just looking at the specs of this craft. I'm with the shape is unconventional. We talked about that
Very
earlier,
unconventional. Yeah.
but the size was also bizarre. Now she'd mentioned, Landrum mentioned, Vicky said that it was as big as a water tower,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
not at the top, but just the height, the length of it,
Yeah.
the body was that. And she was asked, how many flames did you see come from the bottom? 1, 2, 3. And then she said, well, there were so many. There were just so many, so much light that honestly, I was only seeing one. I
Hmm.
mean, there was just like a flame coming down, just like a rocket. Like you'd shoot off a rocket or something. You know how the flame comes down. And the captain said, yeah, how many separate flames did you see? Did you see more than one flame at a time? And then she responds saying, no, I was looking for it, but I wasn't looking for it, rather. She said, no, I wasn't looking for it. I was too scared. To put it that way, I ain't going to say I wasn't scared. I was scared. I guess I'm a coward, but I was scared. And then the captain says, okay, can you recall if you saw more than one flame at a time? This seemed to be like a
Yeah.
sticking point. Like he's trying to this methodology of questioning is trying to say, well, our craft has 4 flames. So if they saw 5 or 6 or 3,
Yeah.
it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
I think that
so
makes sense.
he said, okay, can you recall if you saw more than one flame at a time? No, I wasn't looking at the flames. I was looking for a way out. And he says, oh, okay, I understand. The reason I'm asking is, didn't it have one engine or several engines from what you could tell? And they respond, I wish I could have asked. I wish they could have asked me that when I was under the hypnotism. And then chuckles. um, Prior to the incident, Miss Landrum, have you been treated for any illness? And then it goes through all of her sicknesses and stuff that she had come up with after her exposure there. And it's just a very, very, very fascinating manuscript to go through this. And you can see where they are trying really hard to find their out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying. They're
Like
trying their absolute best.
like Brandon, you write, books and scripting and things of that nature. I mean, is that not how you would frame something out?
Yep. Oh yeah, totally would.
Like
Try to.
just to get away, like, okay, here's my scapegoat.
Yep.
I'm gonna ask him this, and then bam, hit him with the big rubber stamp that says denied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like they were setting her up to make her look stupid.
Uh-huh. That's what I thought as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, parts of the story, I'm just telling you right now, parts of the story don't make sense.
Right.
That's just logic. That's data. Parts of this story don't make sense. Does that mean we need to throw it out like Phil Glass and like, Sean Kirkpatrick would have you do? No, it doesn't. It means that you need to put the little parts over here that don't make sense. And then you need to stack up all these other parts that do make sense. And you're going to
Yes.
see a massive imbalance that shouldn't exist if if
Well,
this was a non-event.
to give an overview real quick, because we're coming up here, we're hitting the hour mark. To give an overview of the things that don't make sense versus the things that do.
Want to see something makes no sense? This is what makes no sense. You got this massive thing coming over the road, right? It's even brighter than this, by the way. That's just my little rendition of it. So,
because it was described as turning night today.
not only that, it left physical marks on that road and on the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there was nothing there, how did it do that? Calling upon
Right.
the ghost of Phil Class. Can you answer that question? No, you can't.
Let's get the
You
obelisks
could.
out.
Yeah, right.
But okay, so that's one of the things that tracks with everything that we know now. And it had trace evidence. Okay. It was one of the first cases that actually had trace evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
it had trace evidence. It
now
didn't
look-
have radiation. It didn't have radiation. This is one of the skeptics' number one things.
Yeah.
It didn't have radiation. The car should have been radioactive, according to them. The car was not radioactive. There was no radiation discovered. If it was a radiation sickness, then why not? But the answer is, what did I tell you? This form of radiation is not like your standard ionizing radiation, as in gamma radiation. This is different.
Think about what we found in Canoa State Forest that one time. The radiation dissipated. We measured it dissipating.
It is dissipated.
Over
Yes,
time.
it did. It did. It absolutely dissipated. Yeah, it was very
And
quick.
it dissipated over a 6-hour
You
period of
shouldn't
time.
have did that. Yeah, it shouldn't do that.
Right? That's not how radiation works, kids. Like the half-life is not that.
If it's there,
Now-
it's going to be there.
And it's going to be there for a long time,
Yeah.
usually, like based off our normal understanding of how it works. Okay, so things that don't make sense. The amount of helicopters
No, doesn't make sense.
or where they all came from.
Doesn't
Because
make sense.
that's a lot.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Now
That's a lot of helicopters. And to be fair, some of the reports I'd seen, not all of them were CH-47s.
right, they're just your standard black
Don't know what they were.
Huey.
They just said the helicopters. So
Right.
we can assume they were probably UH-1s back then, because Black Hawks weren't around yet. So they were probably UH-1s, because
Yep.
they were still using those things, up into the 2000s.
Right. I mean, they're still using them for training today.
They're a great helicopter. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Who doesn't love a Huey?
I love those things. But
Now,
yeah.
so
So
you've got the amount of helicopters. The next one up is I'm gonna put it in there just because it fits both categories, the lack of the radiation. The other thing that to me doesn't make much sense. If that actually happened to the dashboard and you're going to go speak to somebody, like those dashboards come out. You can take that section of the dashboard out and be like, look at
Okay.
this.
I'll address this right now because I get where you're going with it, but I can also say this. Those were two old women in the 1980s. Think about that just for a second.
That's
Two old women, 1980s, church going. The one that really aggravated me the worst was hearing her later on when she was close to death, and she's telling her story, and she says she couldn't even go to the store because people were making fun of her, and she said that she wanted to go to church, but even her preacher wouldn't let her come in.
Yeah.
Even her preacher wouldn't let her come in.
I'd go to the grocery store, and people would make fun of me. I'd try to go to church, and the pastor asked me not to come.
I want to tell you what, just for 1 second, because that makes my blood boil. All right.
Right.
So I'm going to stand on my little podium here for a second. If this is going to offend you guys, go ahead and just turn it off right now, or I don't know, unsubscribe. I don't really give a crap, but here's the truth. Unless we start actually being a little more compassionate with people, it isn't going to matter what they say. It isn't going to matter what they do, because when we take the stance that there's no evidence, therefore it cannot be, that means that you're too stupid to look for the evidence, or you're too blind to look for the evidence, or you're just going to believe so-and-so because they say there isn't any evidence.
Right.
Here's a thought. Go look for it yourself if you're so concerned. But even if you're not concerned, even if it doesn't matter, think about someone's feelings for just 2 seconds before you jump to that conclusion, before you look at someone who's in your town, who comes to your church all the time, by the way, a place that shouldn't judge, but it's the most judgmental place that I think I've ever stepped my foot into.
Yeah.
I liked my church. I really did. I loved my church. It's not why we quit going. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of them that are, don't be like that. You can change it. Every single one of you. Am I wrong, Joe?
No, you're not wrong at all.
It comes
And
to you to change it because
yeah,
they're not going to change it. They're not going to change it. The people who are doing this stuff are not going to change it. All they're going to do is try to convince you that you and you can't believe the way they do. Don't
right.
you associate they're demon possessed or they're seeing this or they're seeing that and they're touched. No, they're not
Yeah.
touched. They just need some compassion because they are dealing with something that is not what you think is normal. Sorry, that's the end of my rant. But that's why we do
it's
what we
fine.
do.
Like these are things that need to be talked about because it still happens today. The world's not much different than it was
It
back then.
happens. We've seen it on the road. We've
Yeah.
talked to people. They've come to our table with their heads down, and
Yeah.
then they park their ears up when you say, "Well, you can believe that if you want. That doesn't matter."
Yeah.
Look at the guy who picked up the. Oh, what do you think? It kind of looks like an alien, but I'm a Christian. I'm like, so what does that matter?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was about the time that you chimed in and said, "Well, he used to be a pastor, and he still
Yeah.
reaches to people and talks to people." and
Yeah, it's
trains
just I don't get it, man. I don't get the judgmental nonsense, and it's on both sides. It's on believers and a non-believer
people. Yeah,
side. All they want to do is tear someone down. This one really bothers me because again, she just wanted to be accepted.
yeah,
She just wanted someone to pay for the crimes that were committed. And I'm sorry, there was a crime committed. There was a crime committed here.
oh yeah, and all the evidence points that direction today.
Especially today. Maybe not then. Maybe not in the 1980s. There wasn't,
Right.
no one was talking about it, right? So we didn't have all this.
Yeah, all these projects came out and said, "Oh, it's just swamp gas." And
But now
everybody
we
took
have it.
for face value.
But now we have it. So now it was so senseless. All of that was senseless, is what I'm getting at. And they
Yeah.
still won't admit it. Let's be real.
So, with those things that I'd mentioned earlier, that kind of they don't make sense, and we understand where they cause question and where the skeptics get their ammo from for this. There's far more evidence at this point, especially knowing what we know, that came out with the DIRD reports,
Yeah.
that came out with information during Gary Nolan's interviews, that has come about with some of these people who were previously denied VA help, VA medical support,
Yep.
now being able to get medical treatment through the VA for their exposure to these anomalous phenomena.
Yep, that's right.
You know, we've come a long way since
have.
the 80s at this point. And this case stands out as one that they tried to brush under the rug, but under today's scope, looking at this whole case through a post-disclosure lens, these people were treated like human garbage.
No, that's pretty much it. You took.
They were
garbage.
brushed aside,
Yeah.
said your elements don't matter, your
Yeah.
radiation sickness doesn't matter.
Right.
It wasn't our UFO.
Wasn't our UFO.
That's an SEP, guys.
Mhm.
That's
Oh, it's not hard to see where that methodology fell from, huh?
Yeah.
no, it's not at all.
Dude.
And it's
Like
such
I
a
said,
tragic case.
This case, like I said, it's one of the ones that really bothers me more than any other case out there. This one really bothers me just because of the people who were involved. I know, they were trying to do this. Look, man, they didn't care if they didn't care to make millions of dollars on a book. They just wanted their medical bills paid.
Yeah.
Is that such a hard thing?
And I don't know if anybody's ever checked into it, but radiation sickness treatment is not cheap.
Of course it's not.
Nor is
I mean,
cancer
yeah.
treatment.
No.
Right?
God, no.
The opposite, radiation treatment.
Right. And
You
she
know?
did both. So,
She did.
Hey.
It's
anyway.
just, it's a tragic thing, man. This case is very, very tragic. And the good thing with this today, um, the Colby
Yeah.
is still around.
Yeah.
Colby has taken people out, and we'll put some links to that, to some of the stuff that he's talked about, some of the video. I think it was UFO hunters, right?
Yeah, I think it was UFO hunters. The one
He took them to the site
Mm-hmm.
where it occurred, and that was really cool seeing that. But what kind of boundaries are they not willing to cross when it comes to the reverse engineering of this equipment, is what this case should make everybody be asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. That's an extremely fair question. Like, look, I'll say it again. If nothing's going on, why are we spending so much money? I'm going to start sounding like, your buddy here in a minute, but if nothing's going on, why are we spending so much money?
Yeah.
Why are we endangering people's lives on a constant level? And why can't anyone talk about it? Why can't anyone tell you just a little bit of what's going on? You don't need to know it all. I don't need to know how the dang thing works. Just tell me it's real, and that's enough. I'll leave you alone at that point. Oh, well, it's top secret. Well, the A-bomb used to be top secret too. I now know they exist. I can't go out and build one. I mean, probably, but I can't go out and build one actively. I can't do that.
Right.
Ever. Never.
I mean, you had that one kid that tried in his backyard.
Yeah, there's a good example there you go. That's a good example why you don't do that.
Scout building a nuclear reactor.
That's
in his
an
garage.
amazing story. That is an amazing
Oh, man.
Yeah. But that's a true story, by the way.
Yeah.
Look that one up. That's an insane story. But what I'm saying is most people can't do that, and they don't have any desire to do that. So just because I would know that UFOs or whatever they are exist, these, non-human intelligent vehicles exist, then what does that matter? I can't go out and build one. I'm probably not going to build it and go, start an international incident somewhere.
But we will build it and hang it in a golf course somewhere.
Do that. We can totally do that. Let's be real about that one. But yeah, but what is sad is that Betty Joyce Cash, she did die at age 69 on December 29th, 1998. Do you know that is
the anniversary
that
of
is
their sighting?
The 18th year anniversary of their sighting, if I'm right. Is that right? 18 years? Yeah. Oh. 18 years to the day of the sighting. Yeah. And then Vicky, of course, she died 83, September 12th, 2007. But, yeah, man, just, I mean, they left a legacy, but unfortunately still to this day, there's no answers to this case. They say it's closed. I say it's wide open until that piece of evidence comes out.
Yeah.
Hopefully it does. Hopefully someone releases that study and it's just a little mention of their case in one of those files. That's all it would take at this point.
Yeah.
And it's
So
not
since
even
they said it's not theirs, do you think it's one of those private companies that have reverse engineered something?
Oh, like a defense contractor.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be.
That's possible because it's protected.
Why do you think?
It's protected under that umbrella, man.
Why do you think we gave it to the defense contractors?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the brilliant plan, Brandon. You can't hold someone responsible for any damages incurred to you if they don't own the actual thing that caused the damage.
Yeah.
You have to go after the entity that owns it. And
there's no way to find that out because you can't FOIA any of those guys.
No. And you hear this talk right now about, oh, well, this contractor has it and that contractor has it. Do you really think it's that simple? It's not going to be that simple.
Right.
It is not going to be that simple. There's going to be some kind of shell agency or something that you don't even know about. They're the ones who are going to own it. It's not going to matter if Lockheed Martin built a part for it.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. Oh boy, Lockheed Martin is tied to this project. Okay, that's wonderful. What they do? They build a stabilizer. Oh, yeah. Who owns the rest of the craft? I don't know. There you go. And that's what's
DARPA.
called compartmentalization, kids, and that's how it all works.
Yep.
So, I don't think we're ever going to figure any of this out. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. It's a really sad case, but in today's world, looking at it through the lens we've got, it has some very valuable points that used to be just dismissed as two old ladies trying to get money, and now you look at this, we have these declassified documents, we have these reports now, that say, oh yeah, well, these are the symptoms, and guess what they had, and guess what they didn't have access to. They didn't have access to that DERD report to say, oh well, I'm going to manufacture all of these sicknesses.
Yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 different cases that I could go over right now that mimic them that we didn't have back in 1981. So, it just keeps getting better.
So, Brandon, what's your final takeaway here with this case?
After like watching them talk about it and stuff, I don't think they actually encountered anything alien. I do believe it was something made here on planet Earth by humans. I think it was they ran into something they weren't supposed to. I guess maybe because it was a holiday, they put the flight pattern over that road because they figured nobody would be driving at that time of night or something. But one thing that puzzles me is like, why did it take such an interest in them though? Like, was it the car that triggered its AI systems maybe or something? I don't know. That's the one part that puzzles me.
Or was it just a happy, honest to goodness coincidence that
maybe
it's passing directly in front of them, and its failure started. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. It didn't move toward the car. It just hovered there over the tree lines for a bit, and then the helicopters came in and got it moving again. So I don't know, man. It's a hard one. Like I said, this is a weird case. It always has been a weird case. It's an emotional case because of the wrong that was done. And, just like, I think it was Betty or one of them, I can't remember which one it was. It's on there. She's like, I love my country, but I'm mad at the United States government. That's a good sentiment. You can love your country and still be mad at the government.
Oh yeah.
I think people need to understand that. That's okay. It's okay to do that. You have a constitutional right to do that, actually, to love your country and be not happy with your government. That's okay. So
they're not synonymous with one another,
right? They're not, and that's
because the government changes every few years, and
exactly, yeah. And that's one of the things she had said, and they were still trying to get money, I guess, when they died, but I don't know if they ever did. That's neither.
So that reminds me of people who laugh at the lady who got burned by her coffee from McDonald's.
I remember that.
It's like, man, she got messed up by that coffee. That's nothing to laugh about.
I remember that. Well, it did change things.
Yeah,
it did.
It did change things, and the pies in particular, they were lava.
Yep, yep. The pies are now not like they used to be.
Yeah,
and therefore nowhere near as good as they used to be.
I agree with you.
I wanted to eat it and breathe like a dragon at the same time.
Yeah, well.
So, Ron, what's your takeaway here?
My takeaway is, if you guys are ever out there and you're driving down a road and you see a bright light in the sky, if that light is farther away than 500 feet, you're okay. If it gets a little closer, say 130 feet, and you can start to feel the heat from it, you want to get as far away from that as you can.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from it. And I mean, I really do. And I'm the idiot who literally jumped out of a vehicle on several occasions now, chasing lights. But that was before I knew about the DRD, before I knew about all that stuff. I won't do that anymore. And that's why I keep telling you guys, don't chase the friggin' orbs.
That's why I'm just going to wear, I'm going to wear my dosimeter and I'll chase.
You know what? No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get you a full body hazmat suit. We're going to
a lead-lined, lickable hazmat suit. So that way I can go as insane.
That's it.
in reality as I feel sometimes.
I'm Joe Perdue, and I'm chasing orbs.
I chase ghost possums.
Oh man, I think this case is one of those historic cases in ufology where we can't ignore it anymore, especially knowing what we know now. And we have to look at it through that modern lens, through that post-disclosure lens, and it may have not been a off-world craft. This may have been our attempt at trying to reverse engineer it, and they just were in the wrong place at the wrong time because somebody lost control.
Yep. You got to remember, it was close to the Space Center.
Yeah.
You got to remember, it was close to the Space Center.
And it very well could have, it might even have not been a reverse engineered thing. It could have been that engine that was developed in the 70s. And they were just like, hey, let's see if we got this practical application for it now. Let's give it a test run and see what happens. And all of a sudden it starts drifting. And they're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. I mean, they could have put it in that body. They could have put it in that body to hide it as a UFO, guys.
Yeah.
It was the 80s. Sightings were happening. Remember? Lots of sightings happened in the 80s.
There was.
There was a thing called Gulf Breeze happened in the 80s. There was all kinds of sightings in the 80s.
It's true. It's all very true.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, I think that brings us to a close on that episode. I think this was a really, really good show. We touched the sensitive parts of this story and looked at it through a lens that it's needed to be looked at, that I don't think very many people have. So
I think it's also a good example. It may have not actually been an encounter with extraterrestrials or whatever, but you can see the effects that someone would suffer if they did happen to encounter something.
So like a real life guinea pig situation. Yeah. You know, and that's well within the ethical boundaries of some of these projects. So guys, if you've had a sighting, if you have seen any kind of strange lights in the sky or anything of that nature, if you've been out and about and you've had your own Bigfoot sighting or seen an alien black cat, please reach out to us at wildandweirdwv.com. Hit the report of sightings tab. We want your report. We want to add it to the data pool. We want to be able to create a map that has all this stuff. And we've been doing it so far. And we've got several reports that I need to add from out of the state now. So keep those coming in. We want reports from all over the country, guys. We're not just a West Virginia podcast. We're not just we are a West Virginia based business, but this is not a West Virginia based podcast. We are a global podcast, everybody. And don't forget that if you are listening to us and you're in Jamaica, because we know you're listening.
I know Jamaica's out there.
You guys, if you've had any sightings, send us some reports. We want to have them. Go to the link below that you see here on YouTube. It's wildandweirdwv.com. Contact us tab, report a sighting. And trust me, we will be in contact with you. It will not fall on deaf ears. If you just want to reach out to us to get on the show, if you're interested, if you have a book that you'd like to promote, or if you just want to come on and share your story, reach out to us at wildandweirdwv@gmail.com. We're pretty well always available. You know, you send us a message, you send us an email. We're going to try to get back with you very, very quickly. Also, remember to like, share, subscribe, tell your family and friends about how wild and weird you are every day, because it's a great family to be a part of. And we appreciate each and every one of you weirdos out there. Now, if you really want to be a part of the party and you want to come along with us on this wild ride, you definitely want to join us every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for our live radio broadcast. It is a viewer-driven show. We let you guys pretty much take the steering wheel, and we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, pretty much. That's about the best description of that. And
it's such a blast. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. You've supported us in so many ways, and we're going to be announcing. Actually, we may have actually already announced it. Time travel. The Paranormal High Strangeness Workshop in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So you want to be on the live show to catch that drop. Okay, everybody? Next, if you have a story that you'd like to share, send it over. You can either tell it yourself or we can read it aloud for you. It's part of our listener accounts. We don't have very many of those. We'd love to have more, but they do come mostly over on the live. We get very few to read out over here on the recorded show.
Yeah, it's mostly on the live. I
But
think
we'd
we
love to
actually,
have some more over here on this
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And
Leave your comments below always as well.
absolutely, your comments.
after
If
you
you have
watch.
anything, if you whatever you want to say, if it's just like, hey guys, loved the show, do it. Or if you just want to mash your forehead off the keyboard and press enter, do that too. It'll be fine. I mean, I've got some marks on my head right here from getting hit with a keyboard. Thanks, kids. I love you. But guys, this has been a fun show. Thank you all for hanging out with us for as long as you have. Thank you guys for listening out there all over. I'm going to give you guys a quick shout out real quick before we drop. By the way, guys, we're over 80,000 downloads at this point.
No,
Thank
yeah,
you.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Everybody, thanks.
You guys are fantastic. That's over on the audio only side.
Yeah, YouTube has gone up as well. So
Yes.
keep that going up, guys. Keep coming over there and joining. You're definitely going to want to do it because we got some really cool stuff that we'll be announcing real soon. It's going to be announced over there first.
Holy crap. Our brothers and sisters down in Jamaica have climbed the polls once again. They are now in the number 5 slot.
Oh, man.
They kicked Germany from number 5 slot
Come on,
over on the
Jamaica.
countryside, followed by Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and the United States at number 1,
Wow.
as always.
Yes.
We've got in our cities breakdown at number 1, Columbus, Ohio. Thank you, Columbus, Ohio. You guys are
Thank you,
fantastic.
guys.
Huntington, West Virginia, coming in right there at a close second. Then New York. You guys have been up in the top 5 for a while, doing great up there. Thank you guys for listening to us in New York. Tell your friends if you're riding along on the subway there in New York, just elbow somebody that you don't know and say, hey, you guys should listen to Wild and Weird Radio. And if they come over, okay, if somebody from New York from the subway sends us an email, wildandweirdwv@gmail.com, you can contact us and we will send you a sticker. Then we've got Atlanta, Georgia, and Lexington, Kentucky. Wrapping up there. Thank you guys for listening. Jamaica, the Philippines, Denmark, my Northman brothers. I love you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. Y'all are awesome. So until, well, for us, it's just a couple days. But for you guys, it's till next Thursday. Stay wild and weird, everybody. And remember, if you're ever driving out along a dark country road and you come across some kind of strange fiery ball in the sky, it's probably not the best idea to stop the car. Maybe even just do a U-turn. Probably for the best. Stay wild and weird, everybody.
No selfies. Just get out of there.
No TikTok videos? Oh,
No.